You're listening to the Access Success Podcast, produced by Access U, a division of Access Advertising and Public Relations. Hey, let's do something big. I'm your host, Rachel Schneider. Welcome to the Access Success Podcast, where we highlight important topics focused on education in every form it takes. And welcome to our first session of a new segment we're going to do here on the Access Success Podcast called The Chat Room, a recurring segment that we're starting on the show where we're going to bring timely topics to the table to discuss as a team here at Access U. So we've got familiar faces in the studio today, including myself, your host, Rachel Schneider, Access U's social media manager, Brianna Sepulveda, and our digital marketing specialist, Lucas Weaver. Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, you know it's going to be a great podcast with the three of us entering the chat, am I right?
Of course.
Exactly. So as the host, I'll kick off our first topic today, the big question looming for social media pros right now. Has the countdown started on TikTok? On March 7th, the White House officially backed a bipartisan bill that could be used to ban TikTok and other foreign-produced technology. This comes after multiple states have already banned the app on government-owned devices, with colleges and universities not allowing access on campus Wi-Fi networks. Reports from NBC News explain how the bill, referred to as the Restrict Act, would give the Secretary of Commerce broad power to regulate tech produced by 6 countries that have adversarial relationships with the U.S., including China, Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and Venezuela. So I guess my first question on this is, what makes TikTok more of a security risk than other social media apps that foreign spies can easily hack into? I mean, does anybody want to enter the chat with their first impression of this, or why we think this is happening now?
Oh, sure. I'll jump right in.
Bree is entering the chat.
So, it's causing a lot of mixed feelings because I definitely was pro TikTok, and it is concerning hearing all these things in the media today about how it has the potential of being banned from our country. Mm-hmm. We have more than 1 billion people actively using TikTok around the world, and at least 67% of teenagers within the United States are actively on there. So hearing stories about universities banning it and just kind of cutting off that connection to where young people in our country are very involved and present.
Very active.
Yeah. It's a little concerning from a marketing perspective, but mm-hmm. I don't really know too much about what the actual security threat is, other than the fact that it is a Chinese-owned company and it's not made within the U.S. And there's a lot of politics and political charge behind that.
And what about the clipboard aspect that we were talking about a little bit when it comes to TikTok's capabilities to see what is in somebody's clipboard? Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. When you go on your cell phone and you are highlighting a piece of text and you're copying it, whatever you're highlighting is being sent to what's called the clipboard. And so that's the part of your phone that's storing that sentence or those characters that you want to eventually paste somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So with that, if I am copying a password, those digits are then being accessible on the clipboard and TikTok is then collecting that onto their server. The thing about clipboard data is TikTok's not the only one doing it. Mm-hmm. We know that Reddit and LinkedIn also collect clipboard data. I could understand the concern of someone having your password, but the flip side to that is we don't really have a way of knowing whether or not TikTok knows what that password is for or mm-hmm. where that's going. So that's
or any of these apps with access to it.
Exactly.
Right.
So whether it's your email or your bank information, if you do online banking, if you decide to do the copy and paste, eventually those digits are being sent to a company server. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, definitely something for everybody to keep in mind who may not know when they use their clipboard on their phone to copy and paste things. You just have to be careful with your personal information, I think, across the board, not just on any one app.
This is actually new to me. And the question I guess I have for that is, is this clipboard data like from any app that you've had, or is it only stuff that you're
Right.
clipping from the app that you're currently within? So that's something I'd like to look into a little bit more, because it is concerning. Do they have access to all of that information that I've been, copying and pasting somewhere else? It really makes you think, like, what kind of information have I been using, and is it safe?
Right.
So, and I think that's kind of the question. And I think there's a little bit of heightened awareness recently with security, especially because TikTok is a Chinese-owned company. So people are a little bit wary of that. And given recent events with the balloon, I feel like more people are taking notice right now of these kind of issues, and so it's being kind of thrown into the limelight. And I will say, even just scrolling through TikTok myself, there have been multiple creators that are like, hey, just in case, like, TikTok goes down within the next month or so, be sure to follow me on Instagram. Like, I love you guys and like want to keep this going. So you can already see people starting to kind of prepare for the end, as it were. So I think that's kind of interesting.
And what was your guys' first reaction when we heard of colleges and universities banning it on campus? I mean, I wasn't as concerned about it being completely banned in America until I saw this bill and thought, oh, okay. Like, if it has bipartisan support and multiple politicians backing it, it seems like it is picking up a lot more speed. And so it seems like this is something that could very well go through.
Yeah, I guess my initial thought back when it's, first of all, TikTok is changed so much so rapidly,
Right.
And I think it started out as Musical.ly, right? So it was more just like people filming themselves with video and music and dancing, and then it sort of evolved and became more people like sharing their personal lives and talking, and then I think it really exploded after the pandemic started and everybody had to be at home, and so they were like, well, what do I do with myself and my time? And like the only way to connect was to go online and download TikTok, and you could see videos from people just like you talking and trying to get through the pandemic.
I'm curious, so on the digital side, I mean, we're talking about a lot of users and an app that grew rapidly. So what makes TikTok unique in that regard?
I think it's because there's so much data. It's kind of to the point that you made a bit ago, Bree, like when the pandemic started and so many people started logging on, specifically like Gen Z, it was the fastest growing app, fastest growing social media. So like if there is any sort of issue where data could be breached, we're looking at a younger demographic. We're looking at millions of people suddenly online, so that does pose a significant security threat, I do think. But when it first started being banned by schools and things, the marketer in me was like, well, this is obviously an issue because one of the fastest growing segments that schools are looking at, those Gen Z students are on this app. You should absolutely be on there and trying to promote your school, your brand, and trying to attract students. So, I was like, well, that's really going to hurt schools across the country if they're not on one of the main platforms where people are consuming media. And also, I'm sure there are quite a few students on there like hoping to learn about the school and like, see kind of a behind the scenes take of, hey, if I go here, what will my life look like? What
Those day in the life videos and all of that content. It's the best way I can describe it is just that first person view of somebody's day-to-day routine or what it's like, as you said, to go to that school. So, and we were telling clients for a very long time, get on TikTok, get on Instagram and do the reels. And I still feel very strongly that short form video is not going away anytime soon. I think that Instagram Reels is going to still be something that colleges and universities and other businesses and other clients definitely want to participate in for their engagement. But Bree, I want to come back to you because you have a unique perspective on this as well that you and I discussed before in a prior episodes. In the many ways people have been able to monetize their social media content and best practices for gaining a following on TikTok. Your fiance Amanda is an artist making commissionable videos and getting buzz and business deals through the app. So what's your take on this from that perspective and seeing, this from a business standpoint?
Sure. So to add a little context to that, if you are interested, definitely check out A Day in the Life of an Influencer with Amanda Kelly. That's a title of a podcast we've done recently in December of 2022, where she went in detail of her craft of making miniatures and having an online influence. But with that specialty of creating these miniature worlds, Amanda has been able to make up to $15,000 in one commission just for one video. And some of her clients include General Mills, Xbox, and even the artist Soccer Mommy. So it kind of hurts my heart a little bit, because it's what TikTok did was it taught us as marketers, but as content creators, it taught us a lot of lessons. Mm-hmm. And one of them was providing a safe space for some of the smaller businesses in our country, the mom and pops, the people who are just getting their ideas out on the table from their garages or their home offices and creating art to sell online and branding themselves even.
And a lot of niche content, niche
Yes,
audiences on
100%.
TikTok. I feel like that's something that the platform has uniquely been able to capitalize on.
Right. Yeah. And we learned that there's community, right, with all of the niche content, the customization of your For You page, seeing the topics that you're interested in, and having that catered news feed, but also, the focus on authenticity, the raw footage, the holding the phone in front of your face while you're sitting in bed and just talking about an experience that happened at work. And these are the kind of videos where users were able to comment and say, oh my gosh, that experience happened to me. And in Amanda's case, she's specializing right now for her thesis in miniatures that are about hoarding situations and compulsive hoarding and the mental illness behind that. So many people, thousands of people from across the country and across the world were commenting on her videos saying, this unfortunately happened to my mother, or I grew up in a similar home. Thank you for bringing this content to light and sharing our stories. So moving forward, like we mentioned, I don't think that short form video is going to go away. We're seeing Instagram still being the go-to platform for when everyone may or may not jump ship from TikTok. But yeah, we're seeing a lot of other social media platforms kind of adapt to that short form video as well.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question too that I wanted us to talk about, was because, worst case scenario, TikTok goes down, then what? Do you think everybody's moving to Instagram, or do you think a new app comes soon that's kind of the same thing, but, maybe US based? Or
I could see that. I could see them very much trying to copy what TikTok has, because all of the other popular apps are doing that. Yeah. And before TikTok got super popular, I remember when Vine was the platform to be on for those short form funny videos. And then Musical.ly, which became TikTok, I remember doing that in high school, and it just kind of fell off the map. It was just kind of a fad thing that didn't totally last in popularity, at least for my circle. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see what'll happen. I don't see, coming from an American business perspective, why Silicon Valley wouldn't want to make their own TikTok, But then again, with Meta being such a force, if TikTok goes down and they're able to better Instagram's video engagement and algorithm for Reels, then I don't know. That might be the dominant platform still.
Yeah, and it's not just Meta too. I mean, YouTube is also really pushing for its short form video.
Stories
YouTube was the OG platform for any video content, really. And so, yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how, YouTube, the Meta platforms, Snapchat, how these apps that we're all familiar with are going to adapt and grow.
Yeah, maybe Be Real will do something to. Who knows?
Be Real has, I think there's like a section on Be Real, right? Where it has like more in the moment videos possibly.
I don't know. I'm not on it.
Well, you dropped the Be Real on me, Lucas. I'm still using Be Real. I still drop
Daily?
everything daily. Oh yeah, my streak. I'm on a what is it, like 3rd month now?
Gosh.
And of just dropping everything, taking that selfie. And I will say, for some of the later notifications, like the 11:30 p.m.
Yeah.
ones, I will wait until the next morning and post a late one, and the app will shame me for it. But you know what?
But you
I'm a
still
person,
do it. You're
and I'm
more
still doing
dedicated than
it.
me. I'm like not even doing it anymore. I feel like I get a similar response when I see on my watch app that it's telling me to stand. I'm like, don't tell me what to do.
Right.
I'm not taking a picture right now if I don't want to. So I've just stopped doing it.
And I feel like recently, like Be Real came out of nowhere, okay?
Yeah.
And like it was super popular all of a sudden. I kind of feel like I'm not hearing anything about it anymore. I feel
Yeah,
like it
right.
might already be on the way
Might
out.
be one of those fad things that's like, oh, hey, download this, try it out. And now I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think conceptually they were really trying to go for that authentic, like, content creation. I just don't think that they included more updates to make it a little more interactive as
And
opposed to-
entertaining.
right, and entertaining, because I'm seeing the same like 10 or 12 people every single day, and then you kind of question like, all right, like what am I gaining from this experience, from seeing some of my old coworkers from like 10 years ago, my fiance, of course, and who's mostly in the same room as me when we both get the notification and we're both taking the photos together. I don't know. But technology is growing, and there's a lot of crazy stuff that's happening.
That leads me into one of our next topics here. The Spotify app is actually changing and converging to be a lot more like Instagram and be scrolling as a feed. So it's not just going to be album covers and podcast covers anymore. The app is going to be changing to where you can scroll through and see these short form videos or music videos kind of start to play. I was reading up on it a little bit more on TheVerge.com, that article that you sent me, Brie. Anything stick out to you there as far as how do you feel about that?
Well, the one thing that did stick out to me first off was the Smart Shuffle feature. So I remember when they dropped the Smart Shuffle feature, I want to say a few months ago. I don't know. It was relatively recently, within the year.
What was Smart Shuffle?
So Smart Shuffle is Spotify's way of making suggestions to the songs you're listening to. So I will confess, I'm really into 80s hair metal. So I'm listening to bands like Bon Jovi and Whitesnake, and oh yeah, like Lucas is nodding, like, yep, I can see it. That makes sense.
Yep.
And so if I'm listening to a playlist that has 20 songs on it, and eventually we get through all 20 songs, the Smart Shuffle feature will start to recommend songs. So
Yep.
like maybe you'll like Heart, maybe you'll like Joan Jett, and so on and so forth. So, and I remember specifically coming across a playlist and enjoying it, listening to it on my commute over and over again during my morning commute to the office. And so I wanted to share it with Amanda. And so I'm like, hey, pass me your phone. I'll log into your Spotify and show you this playlist. And what I discovered was the songs on the same playlist, but on Amanda's phone and on Amanda's Spotify app, were different from the ones that I was listening to.
wow.
So there is a little bit of an artificial intelligence like feature in Spotify already that is catering to the kind of music you're listening to.
Yeah, it's the same for Apple Music. So I'm not a Spotify user, but Apple Music has the same thing. So if I had a playlist going, or if I was listening to an album, once it finished, it would pull up music that it would think that I liked based on what I've been listening to. So, that's the same for the two platforms.
But yours is still going. It's still doing that Smart Shuffle thing. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I had Apple Music for years and then recently switched to Spotify because I just got a better deal with them and all my podcasts were in one place there. But yeah, I'm curious to see if I'll enjoy the app once everything changes and I get used to it.
Once it becomes TikTok.
Yeah, that's the thing is like I don't like everything trying to copy everybody else. I want to know what I'm getting into when I open an app and I want to know what I can expect to see there. And sometimes I don't want the social media feature. Like if I go on Spotify, sometimes I just want to listen to music.
Right.
I don't want to get sucked in on my phone, but these apps are getting smarter and they know how to pull us in, and it's getting harder to put the phone down and just kind of enjoy my own space.
Yeah, and I actually was so ready to jump in on this chat with like anti like Spotify changing. Like, no, I'm not into it. But after rereading the article again, kind of thinking about it, I have recently felt a little music fatigued. I mean, I just told you I'm listening to music from over 30 years ago. So like wanting to listen to newer music, I think that maybe this is a beneficial way to introduce podcasts. I mean, we're also streaming video of the three of us on our own podcast. So that might be a great way to grab the attention of someone who is, trying to look for that next new podcast. And I'll tell you a great one, the Access Success Podcast, provided by Access and Access U.
Yeah, I'm curious how the audience interaction is going to change and how that engagement might be helped there. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Go back and look at that data.
I know.
Yeah.
But Bree, you mentioned a good point about a little bit of an AI aspect there. So Bree, Lucas, would you like to enter the chat and talk about how AI is freaking all of us out with all of these new updates and things that it's able to do?
Absolutely. A little more background for me. So I went to school for advertising and marketing with the intention of becoming a copywriter and a creative director. And my path has led me to a little bit of a different direction, but my passion for writing is still remained the same. And so when I first heard of artificial intelligence writing websites, I was
And books.
and
And movies.
Yeah,
movie
shows.
scripts. Like a little part of me was kind of like, oh man, like is that even a possibility for me to pursue in the future? And I have something to confess to the both of you and to our listeners.
This isn't Red Table Talk, so keep it PG.
I promise. I used AnyWord to, at one point, I tried the free trial of AnyWord to create social media content. And what I found was by typing in these are the 5 points that I want to get across, and hit click, it came up with at least a week's worth of content.
Wow.
That was so realistic that it sounded like my own voice and what I would have written. So that freaked me out a little bit, but also at the same time, I think it's not at a point where it's going to completely eradicate copywriters. Mm-hmm. But I think there still needs to be the Oz behind the wizard.
curtain. Yeah.
Behind the curtain, and still using it and making sure that the right messages are coming out. So I don't know. What do you feel, Lucas?
When you put it like that, think about it. Working in an agency, you've got many clients. You've got a lot of copy to write. So in situations where you might be in a pinch, maybe for small things, it could become an important tool down the road for, social posts for a couple clients or things. And of course, obviously you would still have to go through, proofread it, make sure it sounds right and, looks good before you post anything.
But just getting it written can be so time consuming.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And, because I also used to be in basically Bree's position and was a copywriter and handled social media for Access and Access U. And that took up a lot of time, creating those content calendars and writing all of that content for, not only us, but also our clients. And, sometimes if I had an aide to help me write that stuff, and as long as I could just go back and look through it, I wouldn't be super upset about that,
Mm-hmm.
So I can see it becoming more prevalent, but also, I don't know, it's I guess we got to just kind of watch the trends and see where it's going and see if it's kind of taking over.
And you may have listened to our previous episodes with Olivia McKinney and us talking about the great AI art debate and how AI can create things that look like human-made paintings and all of this elaborate art and graphics. And Olivia and I spoke about it, and she was very apprehensive in terms of, is this going to lose artist jobs? And is this a copyright issue? Because when AI is creating this artwork, it is actually taking, details from artwork all across the web. So since it's taking details from other artists, is that something to be concerned about for them? Not getting the same commissions or anything anymore because people can use an AI art app.
Well, and for plagiarism, okay,
Right.
so somebody was just talking to me, it might have been you, Bree, or maybe it was Rachel, that there are teachers now that are having people submit their essays and then an AI created version of their essay to make sure it doesn't match.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Isn't that crazy?
That is insane. Yes.
But what a great strategic move on the teacher's
For
part.
the teacher's part, yeah. It's like, okay, well, if I know that you guys are capable to use this, then give me your version and the AI version so that they can distinguish. Because, can you imagine being a stressed college student and you've waited until 9 p.m. on a Sunday and you have a, 12 a.m. deadline to submit a paper? If you can go on an AI website and have something write a book essay for you or whatever you needed to do, I probably would have done it, to be honest.
Yeah, and not to mention, pre-artificial intelligence, I was a very good student. I always did my homework, but I had friends who would hire people like other people
write
who
it.
didn't even go to their college to write papers. So is there a difference in morality of hiring, your buddy to write your paper versus hiring, quote unquote, artificial intelligence and doing so?
I would say it's unethical.
Oh, yeah, it's still cheating,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. And then, but that kind of thing too is like, where does that come in line, like in our line of work? Like if we're using AI to write, well, we didn't actually write it. So is that an issue?
I think when it comes to social media copy and just posts, probably not. But if you are writing an op-ed for someone, and it has to be an original piece of work, would something that AI creates be considered original? Or like different writing contests and books and stuff?
Yeah, so we're seeing public figures, politicians, and, saying ridiculous things with artificial intelligence and just voice filters and face filters, like, upon them, and it kind of is terrifying because if you think about it, like that could happen to any of us, and a lot of what we consider hard evidence is what it's photography, video of things happening in the world. So how do you defend yourself if now there's a video of you saying something that you actually never said, or being somewhere you said you've never been? So circling back to TikTok, it's pretty cool to scroll through and be able to see your teenage self and with that trending filter
filters,
right now. But it kind of makes you wonder, like, what does this mean for the future of media in general?
Yeah, or especially, as you said, proof and what we consider proof, like in a courtroom. If somebody showed that you were walking outside the gas station that was robbed, but that's not actually you, like if that's altered video, what systems do we have in place to distinguish AI created content apart from human made content? And I think that's the biggest concern for artists, for writers, for educators right now, is having a system in place to determine what is real and what is not.
And even for like PR ramifications, what do you do as a company, or, from the PR standpoint, if you've got a client that is facing somebody having made a deep fake of them and the public thinks it's real? How do you, from a PR standpoint, how do you combat that, So I think that's something that might become a bigger issue as we move along and that technology gets better.
With everything we've been talking about with TikTok and these security risks, it makes me think, can somebody program AI to collect data from everything then? How is that going to function in the future? I think we should just, AI, if you're listening, I want to destroy you before it's too late.
All I'm saying is the year that the Terminator was sent back in time was 2029. Is that correct? And that's around the corner for us.
Oh, gosh.
So will the machines take over? Now we're just spinning off into a whole other side of
I know.
the podcast.
Thank you guys for talking about these topics with us here in the chat room. Since this is the Access Success Podcast, could you both share a recent success story, personally or professionally?
Sure, I'll go first. So I guess a little exciting is that I was finally able to wrap up a couple certifications that I'd been meaning to be reissued. So finally got my Google Analytics 4 certification done now that we're moving away from Universal Analytics, and I was able to get my paid search certification. So both are through Google, but those are official now, and now it's pretty exciting.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Great job,
Cool.
Lucas.
Thanks.
Yeah, for people who don't know, can you touch on GA4 really quick for a second?
Yeah, so Google Analytics 4, what we call GA4, is basically just the platform or the system that we use to analyze website data. So whenever you have a website, you always want to have your tracking code for Google Analytics in there so you can get updates on your website users and where they're coming from, where they're going once they're on your page, and gives you a better understanding of what their actions are, what you need to do for your user behavior, and also even technical things like maybe it'll tell you, okay, your website's too slow, people are leaving, that kind of thing. So it's to give you a better understanding of your business goals and objectives on one hand, but most specifically what your website is doing and if it's working for you.
Gotcha. And Bree, what about your success story this week?
Sure. So we have a client who has a passion for basketball. And so even though it's not related to his field or business, he would acquire Virginia Tech basketball tickets. And so we did an Instagram giveaway. And what we found was it not only increased his user engagement, but also gained 40 followers out of it. So I definitely foresee this something as being a way of continuing to build upon that social engagement in the future. And it always feels good, too, once you conclude a social media giveaway and interact with the person who wins the tickets, and they get so excited, like, yeah, I love basketball. So, yeah, I would say that's my success story for the week.
And we've talked about how engaging contests and giveaways can be, on prior episodes. So what was it like to see that be so effective for their social accounts and gaining that following from it?
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, you could argue that 40's not a lot, or you could argue that 40's but huge success. Either way, 40 human beings made the decision to follow that account. That was our goal, was to increase their following and their Instagram presence. And so I definitely think that this is something we're going to pursue again in the future for them. And it's great just to read through the comments and help with the process of selecting a winner, but also seeing the excitement around the actual giveaway itself.
Yeah, and I think 40 followers in just a few days is, that's
very significant.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again so much, you guys. And thanks for listening to the Access Success Podcast. If you like this episode and you want to hear more episodes of the chat room here on the Access Success Podcast, let us know, shoot us an email, or if you'd like to be a guest, we're always looking for guests and experts to join us as well, either in person or via Zoom. Drop us a message on Facebook or Instagram and give us a follow there. We look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Access Success Podcast, produced by Access U, a division of Access Advertising and Public Relations. Find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram to keep up with what the world of education needs to hear at Access U Agency, and connect with us at accessu.com. Let's do something big.